millennial men with 4 completely different incomes opened up to Esquire magazine in regard to the lives that they can afford. And it's a really interesting read. We're going to break it down. But first, I think it's important to know that the Federal Reserve's 2013 survey of consumer finances, which comes out every 3 years, they have found that the median income for American millennials is $35,300. They also talked about how millennials are far less likely to own a home because the college debt that they have, they're not investing in stock markets, at least in comparison to the prior generations. So we have 4 people that we're going to discuss, but first let's do our thoughts, 5 words or less.
Makes sense.
Millennials, responsible for everything bad.
It's the economy, stupid.
No place like home ownership. That's what I tell myself.
Oh.
It's so unattainable. It feels that way, at least in Los Angeles. I know if we lived in like Portland or somewhere that's
God,
a little bit more affordable.
I went to Nashville once, and I was at a bar, a honky tonk, and there were these 23-year-old women, and I was like, so what's up? They're like, they were on like a divorce party, but they bought their house for $1,000 down. And it's like a 3-bedroom house with like, 1,800 square feet.
Right.
And a giant backyard, and they bought it for $1,000 down. It was $140,000. I was like, that shit doesn't happen.
No.
It just doesn't happen.
It's not even a possibility here.
You can get it for $140,000 down now in Los Angeles.
Yes, exactly.
It's a $700,000 house, but no, you can't.
We will get into that, but first let's break down these. It's interesting. It's an interesting case study. So first we'll start with the highest income bracket with $1.5 million a year. Ed Zitron, he's 30 years old. He is in Oakland, California. It's very expensive in the Bay Area, but he's outside of San Francisco, but still very expensive. He's the founder and CEO of a PR firm, and he owns an $800,000 home. That's pretty modest for someone that's making $1.5 million a year.
It has to be on the East Bay. Can't be on the peninsula.
You're right about that. It's in Oakland Hills. You're right about that. And it's interesting because, Brett, you're familiar with that area because you went to Stanford, so you know to live in the city, to live in like Silicon Valley, San Francisco, it's astronomical. I think it's the most expensive place to live in the U.S. right now.
That, New York, like...
No, I believe it's
really?
San Francisco, D.C.,
Oh,
then
really?
New York.
No, are you
Yes.
sure?
Crazy. Well, either way, those 3 are so unattainable.
So crazy.
So
okay.
LA follows closely.
LA is right in there. And then the questions that they asked each of these millennials, things like, do you keep a budget? He says, we try to keep a budget. How much debt are you carrying? Just the mortgage. So he does have credit cards, but he pays off those credit cards every month. Are you saving for retirement? He can save for retirement, so he is. And then they ask him, these 2 questions I think are really important. 1, do you worry about money? And he says, I don't just have a budget. I have a running total on my head of what everything I'm doing costs, and I know what expenditures I can make. So he does worry about money, but he doesn't have this crazy budget. And then also they ask him, are you happy? And he says, I'd say an 8.5 or a 9. Okay, let's hear from your person.
So I am covering the person who's living at the poverty line because I relate the most to him. And his name is Stuart Patience. He lives in Washington, D.C., so again, another very expensive city. He works at a grocery store, which I actually thought was kind of cool. He's like an overnight stalker, which to me sounds like a kind of an interesting job. I would totally do that, except it cuts in during stand-up time, so I wouldn't. But anyway, his monthly rent is $250. His weekly grocery bill is, again, straight out of my diary, whatever's in the house. I always just find a way. And then the last thing that you bought that required serious planning, another thing I related to, a pair of New Balance shoes, because I love shoes, and if you want to get a nice pair of shoes, you really have to plan ahead, and you have to make sure that Hasan doesn't have the exact same pair.
Right.
I like for him, too, he said the reason why he spent, I think, $160 on those shoes is because he needs comfortable shoes to work these 8-hour shifts.
Yeah, these crazy overnight shifts. He has 1 credit card. And then his answer to the question, how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10 any given day? He says, I'd say about a 4. Because he says at the end of the week, after I pay my bills, I've only got an extra $30 to my name. And so then he says that he has to save up for months ahead if he wants to go out with his friends at night, which is obviously really frustrating. And then, how often do you worry about money? Every day.
Right.
But you know what? I will say that when he was asked how much money do you think you would need to have to get the life that you would want, your dream life, he only said $50K, which really isn't a huge amount of money. So I thought that was interesting that he's not asking for a lot to be happy.
But he also said, which was sad, that he doesn't see home ownership even a possibility for him. And that's sad.
I'd like to know what it would be like to live on, say, $55,000 a year if we have someone that we could interview for that. Do you know anyone? That's the segue for your next section.
I was confused as
Good
to
segue.
whether or not you were referring to the article or myself.
I was trying to tee
That's
up
what
the
I was
next
trying to figure out.
segment.
I was like, okay, no.
I don't know.
So my guy is Kelby Greene, makes $55,000 per year. He's 33 years old, and he is a homeowner, and he's also the CEO of Common Sense Content and Marketing, a digital marketing agency that works with financial advisors. Now, what I'm really surprised by this is that he is a CEO of a company, and he only makes $55,000
I'm
a
a
year.
CEO of a company, my husband and I are, and we don't pay ourselves.
Okay,
when you're a
I'm
CEO of a
just
company, it
saying.
takes years
Riot
to pay
Games.
yourself.
I
I'm
remember
just
when the
saying,
CEO of
you
Riot
probably
Games was
make-
paying himself like
You don't make
40K
shit.
a year, living in like an work office.
Who? The
Loft.
CEO of
The
what?
CEO of Riot
Okay,
Games. And
here's
he
what
was
we
just
got
like,
out
I
of
gotta
this.
do
Here's
it.
what we
And
got out of
that's
this. I don't know anything
billion-dollar
about
company.
what being a CEO entails.
You work
don't know.
endless hours and you don't pay yourself because any profit that you make, at least what we do, and most companies that want to be successful, you put it right back into the
Yeah,
company.
that's kind of
and
what he
you're
alludes to
literally
here.
pinching
Yeah.
dollars to hopefully make this company successful.
So he's from Houston, Texas, and he keeps a budget. He's my wife and I are frugal. That's what he mentions. And his weekly grocery bill is $75 per week, and they eat at home 95% of the
You
time.
mentioned he's a homeowner. Where does he
He's
live?
Houston, Texas.
Okay, so that's the difference. Unfortunately, with a $55,000 salary, you cannot be a homeowner.
His monthly
Houston, I think, is the
mortgage-
fourth
his
biggest
monthly
city in
mortgage
America.
Yeah, but still, his monthly mortgage is only $1,100. I pay more for my rent
Ditto.
than he does to own a home
Same.
in Houston. What am I doing?
Same.
Oh, God, it made me so upset because this person has, I mean, it didn't really make me upset because, like, 33 years old, he has, like, a wife and future prospects, and he's the CEO.
He's
It seems
lining
like
it
he's
up.
got a lot.
He's
He's got a
lining
lot
it
going
up.
for him. It's only up from here, whereas my career is like,
He's like, I started from
I
the
don't
bottom,
know.
now I'm here. Like,
Yeah, like a little bit above the bottom. And he has a few credit cards, but he doesn't use
he
them. And
happy?
he's hyper focused. One of the things I want to say is he has $30,000 to $35,000 of debt,
Oh, I wonder if that's a loan for
Yeah.
the business or.
and he doesn't think that he'll ever retire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, fairly
Like,
often.
lows-
He
like,
worries
yeah.
about money fairly often. I related to it a lot, except I also relate to the first guy, the really rich one.
Why is that?
that I also don't keep a budget, but I am aware of like what I
does
can
keep a
spend.
budget.
No, but like I'm aware of what I can spend money on, and I try to be as frugal as possible.
So like that,
elsewhere.
it's a loose
Yeah.
budget. In your head, you have a
Yeah.
budget, but it's not crazy.
Yeah. Unlike Tyga,
regimen.
I have a loose budget.
Yeah.
Let's meet Josh Cohen.
Yeah.
33 years old, makes about $250,000 a year, lives in Stamford, Connecticut, where one
It's
of
a
the
nice
Dunder
area.
Mifflin branches closed.
Very cool.
Thank you. Founder and CEO of Junk Luggers, where they go to people's homes and take stuff away. So they're a lugging business. They could be an organized crime because that is waste management, essentially.
Could be a hoarder intervention business.
A homeowner that pays around $3,500 a month in rent, which means it's probably anywhere from like a $600,000 to an $800,000 house.
Yep.
I don't know exactly, depending on property tax. Let's move on. They put around $5,000 to $10,000 a year into the retirement account. They consider their business their retirement plan. On any given day, since he is a business owner, he says he has tremendous highs and lows. He woke up yesterday feeling like a 2, but today is probably closer to an 8 or 9.
Yep.
Glad I talked to you today, he says. Asked if he has a budget, he says no. We spend about $600 a week on food and mostly eat in. And one thing that they don't have anything that they need that they don't have. But stuff that they want is like, we live by the water, we like a boat, we like a nicer house.
Yeah,
Right.
the
And
rich
a
guy
nicer
was
car.
saying, oh, you know, I'd like to move my entire family from England over to Oakland
sweet.
and buy a house in Hawaii and buy another house
Why not?
in Palo Alto. I was just like, God damn it, dude.
Yeah.
You have enough, you're happy.
So who do you, so you relate to? Who do you guys relate to? And it's at the end of the day, being a millennial, I think it's hard that, but I also think it's dependent on where you live. It's hard that owning a home seems very out of reality, and that sucks.
Well, I relate to, like I said, the guy living at the poverty line, but I also don't, because I find myself really happy about sort of simple things. Like I get really excited when I can pay off my car and when I can pay off my rent, and like that. Those are like little accomplishments to me. And then when I treat myself, it's just something I really look forward to. I don't know. I think that I kind of chose the poverty line because I quit my office job where I had this plan and everything. And so I think because it was a choice for me, my mentality is a little bit different than him.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe if it wasn't a choice, I probably would be feeling closer to a 4. But because I know the alternative of just the soul-sucking nature of working in an office, for me personally, I know every day, like I will never forget the moment when I was mopping a floor at the restaurant I used to work at and feeling euphoria from the tips of my fingers to my toes because I felt like I'd won. I felt like I get to go home after this and play guitar and cuddle with my dog and tell jokes at 10 o'clock at night. Oh my God, what a gift. But I think that if that had just been my lot in life where I'd only known mopping floors, I would have been like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So I think it's dependent.
I relate to exactly what you're saying because for those of you who may or may not know this, I used to do biz dev here at the Young Turks, and it was soul-sucking.
Business development.
Yeah. And when I shifted over to on camera, I started working at a significant pay cut. Like,
But
very
how much happier are you to
significant.
do something that you love?
But exactly, I'm so much happier.
Yeah.
It's every day.
And you have to look at the end result. Sometimes you have to take like 5 steps backwards to, in reality, to do what you want to do, to take like 10 steps forward.
Right, to go back to the fork in the road, you have to backtrack a little bit and take the other path.
Robert
So
Frost.
are either of you guys homeowners? I know that Hasan and I are not.
I've been
Is that
saving and
something
saving
that
and
you're
saving.
looking for?
Yes, I want a home. I do. I have everyone does things differently, but I want that traditional kind of like laid out lifestyle
White
of like
picket fence.
retirement and a
And
home and kids and.
Do you want a home in LA? Would you both look to buy a home in the Los Angeles area?
Yeah, Pasadena maybe.
Yeah.
If I had things my way in the Hollywood Hills because I love that view, but it feels way out of reality, and that's sad.
Yeah, it's
Sad.
it's funny because I rent in a place that I really like. I live by the beach. I
Yeah.
love by the beach.
I love where
I've
you
moved other places and I
Love.
always come back. The place I live in, this guy named Perry back in the '60s bought for $40,000 and sold it to the guy who is our landlord now for like $1.8 million. And if you look down our street and the street over and the next street over, the same dude has built up these giant, they all look the same because he's used the same plans on all of them. So that era is just gone. Unless you look in certain places. Now, as recently as 2009, you could have bought a place in Venice for $800,000 that's now worth $2.1 million.
Gosh.
LA is one of those places that gives you a lot of that luxury to be able to do that, but you also have to have the luxury to wait a decade for that to appreciate.
And also know exactly where the property values are going to skyrocket, like Venice becoming gentrified and super hip as of late.
Yeah.
If you would have gotten in on like the Los Feliz Silver Lake rush in like 2006, holy
But like
moly.
my dad graduated, my dad, like his father was like an electrician and they just like would send them out during war rationing to get enough money, like go find wire and we'll strip it and sell it to the government so we can have money. He went to college and then got a job as a salesman and was able to, in the Valley, buy like 3 houses.
Wow.
Like that.
That doesn't happen in.
It was great. It's very smart. Had the wherewithal to know that real estate's a good investment. So that it's just that stuff. And now where I'm at, I could probably go get a house, but it would be way, way out in the two valleys over.
Same. Gabriel Valley.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but
in
that's a
order to
huge
get-
drive.
I don't want to
basically-
drive an hour and a half every day.
But I'm lucky. I'm lucky
Yeah.
to be born how I was born.
Yeah.
Shit, man.
Yeah. No complaints. Absolutely no complaints. But you just have to. I think the takeaway here is do something that you love. And not everybody has that opportunity, but do the best you can to make that opportunity to do what you love. And it may not be the most well-paying job, but if you do your passion, hopefully you can turn that into a sustainable.
I have a slightly different version of that,
Yeah.
which is don't do what you love and take a job that pays a lot of money.
I was going to say, if you do something that you love, you won't notice how poor you are.
I think
At
you
least
just
it'll
have to
offset
decide,
it a little bit.
You just have to decide if it's worth it, I think.
And you can 100% budget and make things work. You can find ways to buy a home.
Yeah.
You can, yes, the odds can be stacked against you, but if you really have a goal, you can attain it. I don't want to discourage people. So, all right, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.